Imagine a girl being sold to a 70-year-old man at a village festival while everyone watches and does nothing. Her stepmother counts the bride price. The old man examines her like cattle. Her fate is sealed until a blind beggar she once fed walks through the crowd, removes his dark glasses, and asks her one simple question that changes everything. Do you want to marry him? Watch what happens next, because one act of kindness is about to shatter an entire village's shame. Glory's hands trembled as she scrubbed the stone floor. The water was cold, her knees ached. Outside, the morning sun painted the sky orange, but inside the house, everything felt grey and lifeless. Faster, you lazy girl, her stepmother Kemi hissed from the doorway. Do you think food appears by magic? Glory didn't look up. She learned long ago that eye contact only brought more anger. Her stepmother's shadow stretched across the floor like a dark promise of pain to come. Kemi stepped closer, her expensive wrapper rustled with each movement. Gold bangles clinked on her wrists like tiny bells announcing misery. Your father spoiled you when he was alive, but I'm teaching you what you really are. Nothing but a burden. The words cut deeper than any blade could. Glory squeezed the rag tighter, soapy water dripped between her fingers onto the already wet floor. Yes, Mama Kemi, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Speak up when you address me, girl. Yes, Mama Kemi, Glory repeated, louder this time, though each word tasted like ash. Kemi snorted with disgust. Finish this floor. Then go to the market, sell these yams, and don't come back with empty hands like last time, or you'll regret it. She dropped a heavy basket beside Glory. Several yams rolled out, bruised and soft and completely unsellable. The good ones Kemi would sell herself and keep the money. The bad ones were for Glory to struggle with and fail. After Kemi left, Glory sat back on her heels. She looked at her reflection in the bucket of dirty water. A thin girl with hollow cheeks stared back at her. She was 18, but looked older. Hunger and hardship aged people quickly in this village. 3 years had passed since her father died. 3 long years since Kemi transformed from a pretend mother into a tyrant. 3 years of sleeping on a mat in the kitchen like an animal. 3 years of eating scraps while watching Kemi feast. 3 years of being reminded daily that she was worthless and unwanted. But Glory remembered different days. Days when her father lifted her onto his shoulders and called her his precious jewel. Days when he sang songs while working in the fields. Days when love actually lived in this house, filling every corner with warmth. Now only ghosts remained, haunting the empty spaces. Glory finished cleaning and gathered the basket of rotting yams. She wrapped her faded headscarf tight around her head and stepped into the morning heat. The market was 2 miles away through dusty roads. Her bare feet knew every stone on the path, every rough patch that cut into her soles. As she walked, she passed the homes of people who once greeted her father with deep respect and genuine smiles. Now they looked away when they saw her coming. Poverty was contagious in their eyes. Association with the fallen brought bad luck to a household. The market buzzed with life and energy. Traders shouted prices at passing customers. Children ran between stalls playing games. The smell of roasted corn mixed with dried fish and sweat and spices. Glory found her usual spot in the far corner, away from the successful vendors with their fresh produce. She arranged the bruised yams carefully, trying desperately to hide the worst sides from potential buyers. An old woman walked past and poked one with her bony finger, testing its firmness. "These are rotten," the woman said, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "Please, Auntie," Glory pleaded, her voice small. "I can give you 3 for a very good price." The woman laughed, a harsh sound. "I wouldn't feed these to my goats, child." She walked away, still laughing at the absurdity of the offer. Glory's stomach growled loudly, painfully. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon, and even that was just a small piece of cassava, hard and tasteless. But she couldn't eat from her own basket. Kemi counted everything with suspicious eyes. Hours passed slowly under the brutal sun. The sun climbed higher in the cloudless sky. Sweat soaked through Glory's thin clothes, making them stick to her skin. She sold only 2 yams to a half-blind grandmother who probably didn't notice the bruises or didn't care. Then she saw him for the first time. Near the market gate sat a man who would change everything. Blind, or so he appeared to everyone who passed. Dark glasses covered his eyes completely. Ragged clothes hung from his thin frame like strips of torn cloth. A wooden walking stick lay across his lap. Before him sat a small clay bowl, empty and dusty and ignored by everyone. Children surrounded him, taunting him with cruel words and crueler actions. "Blind rat," one boy shouted, throwing a sharp pebble. It bounced off the man's shoulder, leaving a small mark. "Can't even see us," a girl laughed, waving her hand directly in front of his covered face. The man sat perfectly still throughout the torment. His face showed no emotion whatsoever, no anger, no sadness, no pain, just patience, deep and endless like an ancient well. Glory frowned deeply. She set down her basket and walked toward the children with determined steps. "Leave him alone," she said firmly, placing herself between them and the man. The children turned to face her. The boy who threw the pebble sneered at her interference. "Why should we? He can't see anything anyway. That doesn't give you the right to hurt him. How would you feel if someone did that to you? What will you do about it?" The girl challenged, putting her hands on her hips. Glory stepped closer, making herself taller. She wasn't big or strong, but something in her voice made the children hesitate and reconsider. "Go find something better to do with your time," she said quietly, but with steel underneath. "Or I'll tell your mothers exactly what kind of children they're raising." Every detail. The children scattered quickly, throwing insults over their shoulders as they ran away laughing. Glory watched them go, then turned to the man sitting patiently. He hadn't moved throughout the entire confrontation, hadn't acknowledged anything that happened. "Are you hurt?" Glory asked softly, concerned. "No," the man replied simply. His voice was gentle, almost musical in its tone. "Thank you for your kindness." Glory looked at her basket of unsellable yams. She had to sell those yams somehow. Kemi would beat her viciously if she came home with nothing again. But the man's empty bowl pulled at something deep inside her heart. She reached into her basket and took out the smallest yam. It was bruised badly on one side, but food was still food. She placed it gently in his bowl. "It's not much," she whispered apologetically, "but maybe you can cook it into something edible." The man's hand moved toward the bowl. His fingers found the yam immediately, not searching or fumbling at all. For a brief moment, Glory's eyes narrowed with suspicion, but the man simply nodded his thanks. "God will remember this act," he said with certainty. Glory returned to her spot at the market corner. Behind her, she heard whispers spreading through the nearby vendors. "Look at that foolish girl giving away food. Giving away food when she's starving herself. What stupidity. Her stepmother works her like a donkey, and she's feeding beggars who contribute nothing." The words stung like thorns, but Glory was used to pain by now. She sold 1 more yam before sunset to a young mother, 3 yams total for the entire day. Kemi would be absolutely furious. The walk home felt longer than usual. Glory's feet dragged through the dust. Her stomach cramped with fierce hunger. She counted the coins in her hand again and again, hoping they'd somehow multiply. They didn't, of course. When she reached the house, Kemi stood in the doorway with her arms crossed tightly over her chest, waiting. "Where's my money?" she demanded immediately. Glory held out the coins with a shaking hand. Kemi snatched them aggressively and counted quickly, her lips moving. Her face darkened with rage. "This is all you managed?" "The yams were bruised badly, Mama Kemi. People didn't want them at any price." "Liar!" Kemi spat the word like poison. "You probably ate some yourself. Stole from me." "No, I swear on my father's grave." The slap came fast and hard. Glory's head snapped violently to the side. Her cheek burned with instant pain. Tears filled her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall, not in front of Kemi. Never satisfaction. "You think I'm stupid?" Kemi grabbed Glory's chin hard, squeezing until it hurt. "You think I don't know you're stealing from me every single day?" "I'm not stealing," Glory whispered through the pain. "Then where's the rest of the money?" "Where?" "There is no rest. I sold only 3 yams, that's all. I tried everything." Kemi shoved her backward roughly. Glory stumbled, but somehow caught herself before falling. "Get out of my sight," Kemi snarled, her face twisted with hatred. "No food for you tonight. Maybe hunger will finally teach you honesty and respect." Glory fled to the kitchen on trembling legs. She curled up on her thin mat in the corner, her cheek still throbbing painfully. Outside, she heard Kemi talking to someone in a sweet voice. A man's voice responded, deep and oily and unpleasant. "Yes, yes, Chief Adeyemi," Kemi said in an entirely different tone, dripping with false honey. "She's young and strong. A good wife for a man of your important status." Glory's blood ran cold in her veins. She pressed herself against the wall, straining to hear every word. "How old is the girl?" the man asked with interest. 18, perfect age for marriage. Still obedient and trainable. I've trained her well myself." The man chuckled darkly. "I've had 3 wives already. They all died or ran away from my compound, but a young one might last longer. Fresh blood." "She'll be grateful for the opportunity," Kemi assured him smoothly. "Grateful to escape her current poverty and suffering." "When can I see this girl properly?" "Come to the Harvest Festival next week. I'll present her to you then. You can examine her yourself." "Excellent. I'll bring the bride price money." Footsteps faded away. A door closed heavily. Glory lay in the darkness, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. Kemi was selling her like a yam at the market to the highest bidder. Chief Adeyemi was 70 years old, cruel beyond measure. His previous wives whispered terrible stories about beatings and starvation before they disappeared forever. Some said he worked them to death in his fields. Others said worse things that couldn't be repeated. And Kemi was giving glory to him without a second thought. Tears came now, silent and hot and endless. They soaked into the thin mat beneath her cheek, creating a damp spot. She thought of her father buried in the village cemetery. Wondered if he was watching from wherever the dead go. Wondered if he was ashamed that he'd left her alone with this woman. The next morning, Kemi smiled at breakfast. It was the kind of smile that promised nothing but pain and suffering. "You're going to be married soon," she announced cheerfully, as if offering a precious gift. "Chief Adeyemi has agreed to pay a very good bride price for you." Glory's stomach twisted into knots. "I don't want to marry him." "Please." Kemi's smile disappeared instantly. "What you want doesn't matter at all. You're a burden on this household. At least now you'll finally be useful for something. Please, Mama Kemi. He's old enough to be my grandfather. People say terrible things about what happens to his wives. People say terrible things about everyone in this village. Gossip means nothing. You should be grateful any man wants you at all. I'm not grateful for this." Kemi stood up slowly and deliberately. She walked around the table and grabbed Glory's hair violently, yanking her head back at a painful angle. "Listen carefully, you ungrateful wretch," she hissed directly into Glory's ear. "You will marry Chief Adeyemi. You will smile prettily. You will obey his every command. And if you embarrass me in any way, I will make your remaining life so miserable you'll beg for death as a mercy." She released Glory with a violent shove. Glory's head hit the table edge hard. Stars exploded behind her eyes. Blood trickled from somewhere. "Now get to the market immediately," Kemi ordered coldly, "and sell everything today, or don't bother coming back here." Glory gathered her basket with shaking hands that wouldn't steady. Her head throbbed with sharp pain. Blood trickled from a small cut above her eyebrow. She wiped it away with her sleeve and left the house quickly. At the market, she found her usual spot and arranged the yams mechanically. Her hands moved automatically while her mind raced in circles. There had to be a way out of this nightmare. Had to be somewhere to run and hide. But where could she go? She had no family left, no friends who would risk Kemi's anger, no money saved. She was completely trapped. "You're bleeding," a familiar voice said nearby. Glory looked up sharply. The blind man sat in his usual place by the gate, exactly where she'd seen him yesterday. She'd been so lost in desperate thought she hadn't noticed him sitting there. "It's nothing important," she replied, touching the cut. "It doesn't look like nothing to me." She touched her forehead gingerly. "I fell this morning, clumsy." "Did you fall or were you pushed by someone?" Glory stared at him in shock. How could he see anything through those dark glasses? How did he know the truth? "Why do you care about me?" she asked, not unkindly, but genuinely curious. The man tilted his head thoughtfully. "Because you were kind to me yesterday. Kindness deserves kindness in return. Kindness doesn't pay debts. It doesn't stop cruel people from hurting you." "No," the man agreed quietly, "but it plants seeds in the world. And sometimes seeds grow in the most unexpected places." Glory wanted to argue with him, but exhaustion weighed her down like stones. She turned back to her yams and tried to focus. Throughout the long day, she felt the blind man's presence like a steady anchor in a stormy sea. She sold more yams than yesterday through sheer determination. Not enough to satisfy Kemi's impossible demands, but enough to perhaps avoid a beating. Maybe, hopefully. Before leaving the market, she placed another small yam in the blind man's bowl. This time she watched his hand very carefully. Again his fingers moved with too much precision and confidence, found the yam without any hesitation or searching. "You're not blind at all," she said suddenly, her voice accusing. The man's lips curved into a small, mysterious smile. "Does it really matter to you? Why pretend to be something you're not?" "Because people reveal their true selves when they think you can't see them clearly." "And what have you seen in this market?" "Cruelty, greed, indifference, selfishness, and occasionally, very rarely, genuine goodness." He paused meaningfully. "Like yours." Glory shook her head firmly. "There's nothing good about me. I'm just trying to survive each day. Survival without losing your humanity is its own kind of rare goodness." Before Glory could respond to his strange words, a familiar voice cut through the air like a knife. "Glory, what are you doing here?" Kemi stood behind her, eyes blazing with fresh anger. "Wasting food on worthless beggars again?" Glory stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her basket. "I was just nothing. Come with me immediately. Now." Kemi grabbed Glory's arm roughly and dragged her away from the market. Behind them, the blind man sat silently, his face completely unreadable behind those dark glasses. At home, Kemi's anger exploded like a storm. She screamed about wasted food and constant disobedience. She threw Glory's sleeping mat outside into the dirt. "You want to be charitable," Kemi shouted loudly. "Sleep outside with the animals tonight. Maybe that will teach you where you truly belong in this world." That night, Glory lay under the endless stars. The ground was hard and cold beneath her. Mosquitoes buzzed around her ears constantly, but somehow, strangely, the open sky felt freer than the house ever had. She thought about the blind man who wasn't actually blind. Wondered what he was really doing at the market every day. Wondered if he was still there now, or if he'd moved on to another village to watch other people's cruelty and kindness. Days blurred together into a nightmare. Glory worked and sold yams and endured. Kemi's verbal abuse intensified steadily as the festival approached closer. Every single day brought new reminders of the forced marriage, new threats, new humiliations designed to break her spirit. "Chief Adeyemi is a patient man," Kemi said one evening while eating. "But patience has limits. You will behave perfectly at the festival, you will be charming and graceful, you will make him want you desperately. And if I refuse completely..." Kemi's laugh was sharp and brittle like broken glass. "Where will you go? Who will take you in? You have nothing. You are nothing without me. Without me, you'd starve in the streets within days." The words echoed in Glory's head long after Kemi left the room. Maybe she was right about everything. Maybe this was all Glory deserved from life. A life of suffering traded for another life of different suffering. But something inside her refused to accept it. A small spark of defiance that wouldn't die no matter what. The morning of the harvest festival arrived too quickly. Kemi forced Glory into a wrapper that was too tight and too revealing. She painted Glory's face with excessive makeup, trying desperately to hide the exhaustion and bruises underneath. "You look almost pretty now," Kemi said, examining her work critically. "Try to smile naturally. Men don't like sad women. They want happy wives." At the festival grounds, drums pounded rhythmically. Dancers moved in colorful circles around fires. Food and palm wine flowed freely among the guests. The wealthy sat on decorated chairs while the poor served them quietly. Kemi paraded Glory through the crowd like a prized goat at auction. "This is my stepdaughter," she announced loudly to anyone who would listen. "Beautiful, isn't she? Strong and obedient, too." People nodded politely but awkwardly. Some averted their eyes, knowing exactly what was happening. No one intervened or said anything. Chief Adeyemi sat in the place of honor, surrounded by supporters. He was massive and intimidating, his belly straining against his wrapper. His eyes were small and mean and calculating. When he saw Glory, he smiled, revealing gaps in his teeth. "Come here, girl," he commanded, gesturing with a fat hand. Glory's legs felt like water, but Kemi pushed her forward hard. She stumbled and barely caught herself. "Don't be shy now," Kemi said with false sweetness. "Greet the chief properly like I taught you." Glory knelt before him as custom demanded. Up close, he smelled strongly of palm wine and old sweat. "Stand up. Let me see you properly," Chief Adeyemi ordered. Glory stood on shaking legs. The chief circled her slowly, examining her like livestock at market. His fat fingers prodded her arm, testing the muscle roughly. "Too thin for my taste," he muttered critically. "But I suppose you'll fatten up with proper feeding." Kemi laughed nervously, desperately. She's a hard worker despite her size, strong as an ox, very obedient. "We'll see about that soon enough," the chief said. He looked at Kemi directly. "Bring her to my compound after the festival ends. We'll discuss the bride price then." "Yes, chief." "Thank you so much, chief." Glory felt her world shrinking rapidly. The trap was closing completely. In just a few hours, her fate would be sealed forever. But then something happened that changed absolutely everything. A commotion rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. People turned, murmuring with confusion. Glory looked up and her breath caught in her throat painfully. Walking through the festival grounds with confidence was the blind man. But he was completely transformed. No ragged clothes, no walking stick, no dark glasses hiding his face. He wore fine traditional attire, simple but obviously expensive. His head was held high and proud. His eyes, now visible, were sharp and intelligent. He moved with quiet authority, and people stepped aside automatically without being asked. Glory's world tilted sideways. Who was he really? The man's eyes swept across the entire crowd and landed directly on her. Recognition flickered, followed by something else. Concern mixed with anger. He walked directly toward her with purpose. The crowd fell completely silent. Even the drums seemed to quiet down, waiting. Chief Adeyemi stood up, puffing out his massive chest. "Who are you to interrupt?" The man didn't answer the chief immediately. He stopped directly in front of Glory, ignoring everyone else. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly, his eyes searching her face. Glory couldn't speak at all. Her throat had closed completely with shock. Kemi rushed forward frantically. "Excuse me, sir, but this girl is already spoken for. Chief Adeyemi has—" The man raised his hand calmly. Kemi's words died instantly in her throat. "I asked her a question," he said calmly, but with steel underneath. "Not you." Kemi's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. She opened her mouth to argue loudly, but something in the man's gaze stopped her cold. He looked at Glory again with gentle eyes. "Do you want to marry Chief Adeyemi?" The question hung in the air heavily. Every eye in the festival turned to stare at her. Glory felt the crushing weight of expectation, felt Kemi's fury burning into her back, felt the chief's possessive stare on her skin. But she also felt something else entirely, a choice, the first real choice she'd had in 3 long years. "No," she whispered, barely audible. "Speak up clearly," the man said gently. "These people should hear your answer." Glory took a deep breath and found her voice. "No, I don't want to marry him." Gasps rippled through the crowd like waves. Kemi's face went completely white with rage. Chief Adeyemi stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the ground. "This is completely outrageous," the chief bellowed angrily. "The agreement was made fairly. Money will exchange hands." The man turned to face Chief Adeyemi calmly. "No money has been paid yet, and the girl has made her choice very clear to everyone." "Who are you to interfere in my business?" the chief demanded loudly. "My name is Olumide," the man said clearly and proudly. Some of you may remember me. I left this village 5 years ago after losing everything to betrayal and greed." Murmurs spread rapidly through the crowd. Older villagers leaned forward, studying his face carefully with recognition. "Olumide, the wealthy merchant's son?" an elder asked, clearly shocked. "Yes," Olumide confirmed with a nod. "I returned secretly to see if this village had changed at all. I disguised myself as a beggar to understand who people really are when they think no one important is watching them." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Shame colored many faces as people remembered their actions. "I sat at that market gate for 3 long weeks," Olumide continued steadily. "Hundreds of people passed by me every single day. Children threw stones at me. Adults laughed at my condition. Everyone ignored a supposedly helpless blind man." He paused deliberately, letting the weight of his words settle heavily. "Everyone except one person in this entire village." He gestured toward Glory. This young woman, who had absolutely nothing, shared what little she had. She defended me from cruelty. She showed kindness without expecting anything in return whatsoever. Tears streamed down Glory's face freely. She didn't try to hide them anymore. And now I learned that the same woman is being sold like property to a man old enough to be her grandfather. Olumide's voice hardened with anger. "Is this what we've become as a village? Is this the community I once called home?" Silence fell, heavy and ashamed. Chief Adeyemi sputtered incoherently. "This is none of your business, boy. Agreements have been made between adults. The only agreement that matters is between 2 willing people," Olumide replied firmly. "And this girl is clearly not willing." Kemi found her voice finally. "She's my stepdaughter. I have every right to—" "To what exactly?" Olumide interrupted sharply. "To sell her? To abuse her daily? I've heard all the stories. Everyone in this village has. They just pretended not to notice for years." Kemi's face twisted with fury and fear. "You have no proof of anything you're saying." "I have eyes that see clearly," Olumide said simply. "And so does everyone gathered here. They've watched you mistreat this girl for 3 years. They've done absolutely nothing, and that makes them complicit in your cruelty." The crowd couldn't meet his accusing gaze. Guilt settled over the festival like a heavy blanket. Olumide turned back to Glory with gentle eyes. "I owe you a debt. You fed me when you had nothing. You defended me when it cost you dearly. I want to repay that debt now." "I don't want payment," Glory whispered. "I just want to be free." "Then you will be free," Olumide said with certainty. He looked at Kemi. "I'm taking her with me. If you object, we can involve the elders and discuss your treatment of your late husband's daughter in detail." Kemi's mouth opened and closed like a fish. For once in her life, she had no words. Chief Adeyemi huffed angrily. "This is ridiculous. I won't stand for this insult to my honor." "Then sit down," Olumide suggested mildly. A few people in the crowd laughed nervously. The tension broke slightly like a dam cracking. Olumide offered his hand to Glory. "Will you come with me?" Glory looked at his outstretched hand, looked at Kemi's furious face, looked at Chief Adeyemi's angry scowl, looked at the crowd of villagers who'd watched her suffer for years and done nothing. Then she placed her hand in Olumide's firmly. He led her away from the festival. Behind them, chaos erupted loudly. Kemi shrieked. Chief Adeyemi shouted. The elders called for order, but Glory didn't look back even once. Olumide took her to a modest house on the edge of the village. It was clean and simple, a far cry from Kemi's compound, but it felt like a palace to Glory. "You can stay here safely," Olumide said. "It belonged to my family before they died. No one uses it now." Glory stood in the center of the room, unsure what to do with herself. Freedom felt strange and frightening after so long. "Why did you do that for me?" she asked. Olumide sat down on a wooden stool. "Because someone needed to do something, and because you showed me that goodness still exists in this world." "I'm not good," Glory said. "I'm just trying to survive." "Those things aren't mutually exclusive." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the festival continued without them. "What happens now?" Glory asked nervously. "That depends entirely on you," Olumide replied. I have plans to restart my father's trading business. I could use help if you're interested. What kind of help? Managing goods, keeping records, eventually traveling to other villages to trade. I need someone I can trust completely. You barely know me at all. I know enough already. You're honest, you're kind, you work hard. Those qualities are rare. Glory's head spun with possibilities. Hours ago, she was being sold to a cruel old man. Now she was being offered work and freedom. I don't know how to read or write, she admitted. I can teach you everything. Why would you do all this for me? Olumide smiled. Because 3 years ago, I lost everything. Family, friends, the woman I loved. They all betrayed me for money. I became bitter and angry. I left this village swearing never to trust anyone again. He stood and walked to the window. But bitterness is a poison. It was killing me from the inside, so I came back, disguised, to see if I was right to hate people, to see if everyone was cruel and selfish. He turned to face her. You proved me wrong. One person was enough. You reminded me that goodness exists, even in darkness. Glory wiped her eyes. I don't feel like I did anything special. That's exactly what makes it special, Olumide said. You helped because it was right, not because you wanted recognition. Over the following weeks, Glory's life transformed completely. She learned to read and write. She helped Olumide organize his trading business. She discovered she had a natural talent for numbers and negotiation. Kemi came once, demanding Glory return. Olumide turned her away firmly. The elders, embarrassed by the festival incident, sided with him. Kemi left empty-handed and furious. Chief Adeyemi made threats but did nothing. His reputation was damaged. Other families looked at him differently now. Glory worked hard every single day. She saved money carefully. She rented a small stall at the market, selling goods from Olumide's inventory. The same people who once mocked her now treated her with respect. But success came with an unexpected price. One evening, Glory returned to the house to find Olumide sitting in darkness. He didn't light the lamp, didn't greet her cheerfully like usual. What's wrong? She asked with concern. I received a letter today, he said quietly. From the capital city. Good news? A business opportunity, a very large one. The kind that could make me wealthy beyond measure. That's wonderful, Glory said, though something in his tone made her hesitate. Olumide finally looked at her. It requires me to move to the capital. Permanently. The words hit Glory like a physical blow. She sat down slowly, her legs weak. Oh. I want you to understand something important, Olumide continued. You're not my employee. You're not my charity case. Over these months, you've become my friend, my partner, maybe more than that. Glory's heart raced frantically. What are you saying? I'm saying that I care about you, deeply, but I also know that you've just started building your own life, your own identity, and I won't ask you to give that up to follow me. So this is goodbye? Only if you want it to be. Olumide stood and knelt beside her chair. Come with me, Glory, not as an employee, not as someone who owes me anything, but as my equal, my partner in life. Glory's breath caught. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to build a future with me. If marriage is part of that, then yes. But only if it's what you truly want. Tears filled Glory's eyes. 6 months ago, she was being sold to a cruel man. Now she was being offered a choice, true freedom and love. I need time to think, she whispered. Of course, Olumide said. I don't leave for 2 weeks. Take all the time you need. Those 2 weeks were the hardest of Glory's life. She walked through the village, looking at everything with new eyes. This place held so much pain. Kemi's abuse, her father's death, years of suffering. But it also held her history. Her father's memory lived here, the market where she'd learned to survive, the lessons that shaped her. One night, she visited her father's grave. It was overgrown with weeds. Kemi never maintained it. Glory knelt and cleared away the growth. Papa, she whispered, I don't know what to do. Olumide wants me to go with him. He cares about me, maybe even loves me. And I think I feel the same. The wind rustled through the trees. She imagined it was her father's voice. But leaving feels like abandoning you, abandoning everything you taught me. She sat there for a long time, crying and thinking and remembering. Finally, she understood. Her father had taught her to be kind, to work hard, to never lose her humanity despite suffering. But he'd never taught her to punish herself forever. Love was rare, freedom was precious, and Olumide offered both. But there was something she needed to do first. The next day, she went to Kemi's house. Her stepmother answered the door with surprise and suspicion. "What do you want?" "To talk," Glory said calmly. "I have nothing to say to you, ungrateful girl." "Then just listen." Glory took a breath. "You made my life miserable for 3 years. You beat me, starved me, tried to sell me. You did everything you could to break me." Kemi's face hardened. "You deserved everything you got." "No," Glory said firmly, "I didn't. But I'm not here for an apology. I know you'll never give one." "Then why are you here?" "To forgive you." Kemi blinked, shocked. "What?" "I forgive you," Glory repeated, "not because you deserve it, but because carrying hate is too heavy. I refuse to let your cruelty poison the rest of my life." "I don't need your forgiveness," Kemi spat. "I know, this is for me, not you." Glory turned to leave, then paused. "I hope someday you understand what you lost. My father loved you once. I tried to love you too. But you chose bitterness over family. That's your burden now, not mine." She walked away. Behind her, Kemi stood in stunned silence. 2 days before Olumide's departure, Glory made her decision. She found him at the house, packing his belongings carefully. "I'll come with you," she said simply. Olumide looked up, hope and caution mixing in his expression. "Are you sure?" "Yes, but I need you to understand something first." "What?" "I'm not coming because I need saving. I don't need a hero or a benefactor. I'm coming because I choose you, because I want to build something with you." Olumide smiled, and it lit up his entire face. "That's all I've ever wanted." "And one more thing," Glory added. "I'm not ready for marriage yet. Maybe someday, but for now I want to be your partner, your equal, your friend who might become something more." "I can live with that," Olumide said. They prepared to leave the village together. Glory packed her few belongings into a small bundle. She had so little, but somehow it felt like enough. On their last evening, they walked through the market one final time. Vendors who once ignored her now called out greetings. Some even apologized quietly for their past behavior. At the gate where Olumide had sat as a beggar, they paused. "I'll never forget sitting here," Olumide said, "watching people's true nature." "Was it worth it?" Glory asked. "Finding you made everything worth it." The morning they left, a small crowd gathered. Not to celebrate, but to witness. Some faces showed shame, others showed quiet respect. Kemi didn't come. Chief Adeyemi was notably absent, but some of the market women brought small gifts. Food for the journey, a headscarf, a blessing. "We're sorry," one elderly woman said. "We should have helped you." "You can help the next person," Glory replied gently. As they walked toward the capital, Glory looked back once. The village grew smaller behind them. All that pain felt distant now, like a story that happened to someone else. "Regrets?" Olumide asked. "No, just remembering that I survived, that I stayed kind even when the world was cruel." "You saved me as much as I saved you," Olumide said. Glory smiled. "Maybe we saved each other." The 3-day journey took them through villages and forests. Olumide told her about the business opportunity, a partnership with merchants across the region requiring hard work but offering tremendous potential. "I want you to be my full partner," he said, "not just in business, in everything." "I don't know anything about big business," Glory admitted. "You know about people. You know about honesty and hard work. That's more valuable than any training." When they reached the capital, Glory stood in awe. The city was enormous. Buildings stretched toward the sky. People crowded the streets in colorful waves. "It's so big," she whispered. "Frightening," Olumide asked. "Exciting," Glory corrected. They rented a modest house, 2 rooms, a small kitchen, a courtyard with a tree. Olumide threw himself into work immediately. Glory learned quickly, keeping books and managing inventory. Soon she accompanied him to meetings. Her insights surprised the older merchants. Her honesty impressed them. Months passed. The business grew steadily. They hired workers, opened a storefront, expanded into new goods. But success brought challenges. Some merchants tried to cheat them, others spread rumors. One evening, Glory sat in the courtyard looking exhausted. Thinking about the village, Olumide asked. Life was harder there, but simpler. Do you regret leaving? No, but I miss certain things, the quiet, the stars. As the business grew, so did their relationship. They worked side by side every day, shared meals, shared stories. A year passed, then two. The business became successful beyond their initial hopes. They opened a second location, became respected merchants. But with success came distance. Days passed where they barely spoke beyond business matters. We need to talk, Glory said during dinner. When did we stop being partners and become just business associates? The question hung heavily between them. I miss talking about things that matter, Glory said quietly. About dreams and fears. About anything besides inventory and profits. I got so focused on building success that I forgot why I was building it, Olumide replied. Over the following weeks, they tried to reconnect, but something had shifted. The ease they once shared felt forced now. One night, Glory found Olumide staring at the moon. I've been thinking about what we've built, he said. The business is successful. We're respected. We have money and security, but I feel empty somehow. I feel the same way, Glory admitted. Maybe success isn't the same as fulfillment. Days later, Olumide received another letter. An opportunity spanning multiple regions, tremendous wealth and influence. But it required constant travel, months away from home. He showed Glory the letter silently. This is what you've always wanted, she said. Come with me. She shook her head. I want to help people, like you helped me. I want to create something that matters beyond profits. You want to go back, not to the village, but to that kind of work, helping people who are trapped like I was. We could do that together. No, Glory said gently, you need to chase your dreams. And I need to chase mine. They held each other that night with the deep sadness of two people who love each other but can't walk the same road. Within a month, Olumide left for his new venture. Glory started a foundation helping young women trapped in bad situations. She named it after her father. The work was hard and heartbreaking. She met girls who reminded her of herself, scared, beaten, but fighting to survive. Years passed. The foundation grew. She heard news of Olumide occasionally. His business empire expanded, but he never married. She never married either. 5 years after they parted, Glory received a letter with familiar handwriting. I've achieved everything I thought I wanted, Olumide wrote, but I finally understand what you knew all along. Success without purpose is just noise. I'm going to rebuild the village into something better. A place where people like you get help instead of cruelty. Glory read the letter 3 times. She wanted to go to him immediately, but her work was too important. So she wrote back, I'm proud of what you're doing. Keep building, keep helping. Maybe our paths will cross again when the time is right. More years passed. Glory's foundation helped hundreds of women. She received occasional letters from Olumide. His village project was transforming lives. 10 years after they parted, Glory opened a new foundation location near her old village. She hired local women, trained them, gave them tools to help their communities. One afternoon, Kemi arrived at the foundation. Glory's former stepmother looked old, broken, alone. I have a granddaughter, Kemi whispered. My daughter married a man like me, cruel. The girl suffers. I know I have no right to ask, but she's innocent. Glory felt emotions swirl. Bring her tomorrow. We'll help her. I'm not doing this for you, Glory added. I'm doing it for her. The next day, Kemi brought a thin, bruised 12-year-old girl. Glory took the girl's hand gently. You're safe now. The girl looked at her with desperate hope, the same hope Glory once felt when Olumide offered his hand. That evening, Olumide stood at her door, older, more weathered, but the same kind eyes. I heard you were nearby, he said. I had to come. They talked for hours. The years melted away as they reconnected. I never stopped thinking about you, Olumide admitted, wondering if I made the wrong choice. Did you? No, I needed those years. You knew that all along. I didn't know. I just felt it. There's a difference. Are you happy now? He asked. Yes, I'm doing work that matters. That fulfills me. That's all I wanted for you. Olumide smiled. The village project gives me purpose. But something's still missing. You. Glory's heart ached. I care about you, but my work consumes me. I can't abandon these girls. I'm not asking you to abandon anything. I'm asking if there's room in your life for both. We can try, she said carefully. But slowly. No promises. Over following months, they rebuilt their relationship. They worked together sometimes, combining their projects. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the day they met, Olumide asked again, "Are you ready now? For us, for partnership, for everything." Glory thought about her journey, from abused stepdaughter to foundation leader, from trapped to free. "I'm ready for partnership," she said. "For building a life together while keeping our individual purposes. But marriage, I'm still not sure I believe in it." "Then we don't marry," Olumide said simply. "We just commit to each other, to supporting each other's work, to choosing each other every day." "That I can do," Glory said. They had a commitment ceremony at the foundation, surrounded by the women they'd helped. No fancy clothes, no expensive gifts, just promises to support and respect and love. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Glory still carried scars. Olumide still worked too much sometimes, but they faced it together. As partners. As equals. Years later, sitting together watching the sunset, Glory reflected on her journey. "Do you think we're happy?" she asked Olumide. He considered carefully. "I think we're content. We're purposeful. We're together. Maybe that's better than happy. Better how? Happy is temporary. What we have is sustainable." Glory nodded. "I can live with sustainable." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Somewhere in the foundation, a young girl was learning to read, learning she had value, learning she could survive and thrive, just like Glory had learned years ago. The cycle continued. But this time, it was a cycle of healing instead of harm. And that made everything worthwhile. This story isn't about fairy tale endings or perfect rescues. It's about the hard truth that sometimes the people who should love us hurt us most. It's about finding strength when everything seems lost. It's about choosing kindness even when cruelty surrounds you. But most importantly, it's about understanding that healing isn't linear, that love is complicated, and that sometimes the right choice is the hardest one. Glory's journey reminds us that real life doesn't offer simple solutions. Success doesn't guarantee happiness. Love doesn't erase trauma. But purpose, kindness, and commitment can build something meaningful. If this story touched something deep in you, if you've ever felt trapped or worthless or alone, remember that survival itself is an act of resistance. Your kindness matters, even when no one notices. Your choice to stay human despite pain is powerful. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that their struggle isn't weakness, that their gentleness isn't foolishness, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, and that someday, somehow, the courage to keep going will open doors they never knew existed. Subscribe and share this message of realistic hope with others who need to hear it today.